If you remember growing up in the 60s, 80s, these 15 icons we lost in 2025 will stir deep memories. USA nostalgia. The year 2025 took from us many unforgettable figures who helped shape American culture from the 1960s through the 1980s. For those of us who grew up during that time, their voices, their art, and their spirit were part of our everyday lives. They were not just names, they were part of who we were. Let us take a moment to look back and see how many of these legendary names still live in your memories. Roberta Flack. If you ever sat by the radio in the 70s or gently placed a vinyl record on the turntable during a quiet afternoon, chances are you were once moved by the tender, heartfelt voice of Roberta Flack. With songs like The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face and Killing Me Softly with His Song, she didn't just sing, she told stories straight from the heart. In 2025, Roberta Flack passed away at the age of 88, closing a remarkable chapter in American soul and R&B music. But for those who grew up with her voice, she never truly left. Her music remains soft, emotional, and timeless, like a whisper from the past. Every time her melodies play, listeners are transported back to cherished moments, a first date, a quiet goodbye, or a peaceful pause in the middle of a busy life. Roberta Flack left behind more than just songs. She left behind feelings, memories, and a voice that continues to touch the soul. Sly Stone. Sly Stone, founder of Sly and the Family Stone, was a musical icon who helped shape the sound of funk fused with rock and soul in the late 1960s. With timeless hits like Everyday People and Family Affair, he created music that not only moved bodies but stirred hearts with powerful messages of equality, unity, and freedom. His band was one of the first to feature a truly integrated lineup of races and genders, becoming a cultural symbol during a time of deep social unrest in America. Sly's influence resonated far beyond his era, inspiring generations of artists, including Prince, Michael Jackson, and Lenny Kravitz. He passed away on June 9, 2025, at the age of 82. Though he's gone, Sly Stone's legacy lives on in every funky bass line, every driving rhythm, and in the enduring belief that music can truly change the world. Brian Wilson. If you ever lay on the sand in the 60s, listening to the waves and hearing Wouldn't It Be Nice or God Only Knows playing from the radio, then you've carried a piece of Brian Wilson's music in your heart. As the genius behind the Beach Boys, he didn't just write songs, he created the sound of an endless summer. His music wasn't just music, it was youth itself. Golden sunshine, convertibles, first loves, and that wide-open feeling that anything was possible. With Pet Sounds, Brian reached a level of emotional depth and musical artistry that changed the landscape of pop forever. Though his life was later marked by struggles with mental illness, his songs remained a place of comfort and return for millions. Those melodies don't age. They live on in the memories of a generation that once dreamed, loved, and believed summer would never end. Loretta Swit. If you grew up in the 1970s, chances are your evenings were once filled with the familiar theme of MASH and the unforgettable presence of Loretta Swit as Major Margaret Hot Lips Houlihan. Smart, sharp, and deeply human, Loretta brought a rare complexity to a woman in uniform, balancing authority with vulnerability in a way television had rarely seen before. Week after week, she appeared on millions of screens across America, becoming part of the fabric of family living rooms. Her performance helped make MASH more than a sitcom. It became a reflection of real emotions in unreal circumstances. She showed us that strength and compassion could coexist, and in doing so, inspired a generation of viewers and future actresses alike. Loretta Swit passed away on May 30th, 2025, at the age of 87. But for those who remember, gathering around the TV, hearing that theme music, and watching her light up the screen, she will always be part of a golden era, a time when television didn't just entertain, it meant something. Chuck Mangione. There was a time when just a few notes from a flugelhorn could lift your spirits and make the world feel a little softer. That time belonged to Chuck Mangione. With his warm melodies and signature hat, he brought smooth jazz into living rooms, car radios, and lazy Sunday afternoons. His tune "Feels So Good" wasn't just a hit, it was a mood, a breeze, a memory of simpler days when music felt personal. Chuck made jazz friendly without losing its soul. He had a gift for turning quiet emotion into something joyful and lasting. When he passed away in July 2025 at the age of 84, the music world lost a gentle giant. But for those who remember his songs floating through the air on summer evenings, Chuck Mangione will always feel so good. Do you remember any classic jazz tunes by Chuck Mangione? If you have any memories tied to his music, share them in the comments so we can all take a trip down memory lane together. Peter Yarrow. If you ever heard Puff, the Magic Dragon, or Blowin' in the Wind playing during the 1960s, then you felt the music of Peter Yarrow, a member of the iconic folk trio Peter, Paul and Mary, one of the defining voices of American folk music. He didn't just sing beautiful melodies, he carried messages of peace, justice, and compassion. Peter's songs were heard at anti-war protests, during the civil rights movement, and in quiet, everyday moments where people gathered, sang together, and believed that music could change the world. Peter Yarrow passed away on January 7th, 2025, at the age of 86. But for those who grew up in that time, his voice still lives on, as a piece of memory, and as a gentle reminder that music once helped a generation rise up and believe in something better. Tom Lehrer. There was a time when laughter came wrapped in melody and truth wore a grin. Tom Lehrer made that possible. With nothing but a piano and a razor-sharp wit, he turned satire into song clever, biting, and always one step ahead of the headlines. In the 1950s and 60s, when the world felt tangled in politics and change, Tom offered a different kind of commentary. Songs like The Vatican Rag, or his work on That Was the Year. That Was didn't just make people laugh, they made them think. He had a way of holding up a mirror to society, all while keeping a twinkle in his eye. His humor was fearless, his timing perfect, and his intelligence unmistakable. Tom Lehrer passed away on July 27, 2025, at the age of 97. Though he long stepped back from the spotlight, his influence never really faded. Every modern musical satirist, from Broadway to YouTube, owes something to Tom's legacy. Kenneth Washington. For those who remember settling in to watch Hogan's Heroes after dinner, the arrival of Kenneth Washington in the show's final season marked more than just a new face. As Sergeant Richard Baker, he became one of the very few black actors to hold a regular role in a primetime sitcom during the late 1960s. His presence was quiet but powerful, offering viewers, especially young black audiences, a rare and affirming image on national television. In a time when representation was still limited, Washington helped lay the groundwork for a more inclusive screen in the 1970s. His influence wasn't loud, but it was lasting, a steady, dignified step toward change. He passed away in June 2025 at the age of 80, remembered not just for a role, but for what that role helped make possible. Gene Hackman. If you ever sat in a movie theater during the 1970s or 1980s, the lights dimming as the screen lit up with a flawed but magnetic man, chances are it was Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman didn't just star in movies, he transformed what a leading man could be. In an era when heroes were often polished and idealized, Hackman brought raw humanity to the screen. With his gravelly voice and piercing stare, he made flawed characters feel real, relatable, and deeply compelling. From his Oscar-winning performance as Popeye Doyle in The French Connection to the weary gunslinger in Unforgiven, Hackman's roles helped redefine American cinema in the 1970s and 1980s. He showed that powerful storytelling didn't need flashy effects, just emotional truth. His influence went beyond awards, inspiring generations of actors to embrace vulnerability and depth. Even after stepping away from the spotlight, his legacy endured in every serious, character-driven film that came after. When he passed away in February 2025 at the age of 95, it felt like saying goodbye to a chapter of cinema history. But his work remains honest and unforgettable. Comment 1 if you recognize more than 5 of these unforgettable names. Let's see how many memories we share. Robert E. McGinnis. There was a time when just walking past a bookstore window could stir your imagination. A mysterious woman, a lone figure in the shadows, a burst of color that hinted at something thrilling. Robert E. McGinnis was the hand behind those moments. His artwork graced over 1,000 paperback covers and iconic film posters like Breakfast at Tiffany's, Barbarella, and several James Bond classics. More than just an illustrator, he was a storyteller with a brush, giving form to fantasy, romance, and suspense long before the first word was read or the opening scene began. McGinnis passed away on March 10, 2025, at the age of 99, leaving behind a visual legacy that still defines the golden age of pop culture art. George Foreman. George Foreman was more than just a boxer. With powerful hands and unshakable determination, he stepped into the ring as a symbol of strength and resilience. Anyone who watched him fight in the 70s will remember the sound of the bell, the force of his punches, and the unwavering focus in his eyes. After winning Olympic gold and becoming the heavyweight champion of the world, he shocked everyone by stepping away from boxing, only to return in his middle age and reclaim the title at 45. But his influence reached far beyond the ring. With a warm smile and a namesake grill found in countless American kitchens, Foreman became a household presence and a relatable figure. He showed the world that grit, reinvention, and kindness could live within the same man, and that strength takes many forms. Hulk Hogan. If you were glued to your television in the 80s when the music hit and a towering blonde man stepped into the arena with a red bandana and a ripped shirt, that was Hulk Hogan. He was not just a wrestler, he was a phenomenon. Every time he cupped his ear to the crowd or tore off his shirt, the world seemed to roar with him. With his famous line, "Say your prayers and eat your vitamins," Hogan became a role model for an entire generation. He brought professional wrestling from small venues into the living rooms of American families and made it a defining part of pop culture. Hulk Hogan represented more than muscle and spectacle. He stood for fighting spirit, loyalty, and a golden era of sports entertainment that fans still remember with a smile. Susan Brownmiller. For those who witnessed the rise of the women's movement in the 1970s, the name Susan Brownmiller brings back a time when truths were finally spoken aloud without apology. Her book Against Our Will didn't just shake society, it changed how the world understood sexual violence and power. Susan never sought fame. She wrote with clarity, anger, and courage. Generations of women found strength and voice in her words. When she passed away in May 2025, at the age of 89, the world lost someone who dared to say what others wouldn't. But for those who once held her book in their hands, Susan Brownmiller remains a steady voice for truth and justice. Jules Feiffer. If you ever flipped through the Sunday paper in the 1960s or 70s and paused at a sharp, knowing cartoon tucked in the corner, chances are it was drawn by Jules Feiffer. He was more than a cartoonist. He was a social observer with a pen dipped in wit and empathy. Through each panel and line of dialogue, he exposed the absurdities of modern life, politics, and the quiet messiness of relationships. Feiffer helped turn cartooning into an art form that could be both entertaining and profound. His work built a bridge between laughter and truth, between popular art and the intellect of a generation. When he passed in April 2025, at the age of 95, the world didn't just lose a cartoonist. It lost a unique lens through which America once saw itself. Thank you for taking this journey with us through the voices, faces, and moments that shaped a generation. Though they've left us in 2025, their influence still echoes in the music we hum, the films we cherish, and the stories we pass on. If these icons were part of your youth, your memories, your life, share your favorite one below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with us as we continue to honor the legends who made the world a little more unforgettable. Thanks for watching.